What if I told you that the single most absurd, jaw-dropping coaching move in recent Cleveland Browns history, the one that made every fan, every pundit, and every analyst lose their minds, was actually the smartest, most cold-hearted, and brilliantly calculated maneuver in the entire NFL? What if I told you that benching the most electrifying college quarterback of our generation, Shedeur Sanders, was an accident? What if it was step one in a sinister master plan so bold, so manipulative, that it makes Machiavelli look innocent? Because right now, inside the locked halls of the Browns facility, something explosive is brewing. Owner Jimmy Haslam, fresh off signing a $1 billion stadium deal for Cleveland, has officially stopped playing nice. Leaked sources are pouring out of Berea, painting a vivid picture of a power struggle shaking the organization from the inside. The whispers claim Haslam just embarrassed his own head coach, Kevin Stefanski, in front of the full staff. Those close to the situation say Haslam has had enough. He's tired of watching Stefanski baby the offense and chain down the future of the franchise. And now, with that stadium deal barely dry, the grand scheme is officially underway. This isn't just a quarterback debate anymore. This is about control, money, and one ruthless business play that turned the entire NFL world into pawns in Jimmy Haslam's high-stakes chessboard. Stefanski was a pawn. The press was a pawn. The fans pawns. But Shedeur Sanders? He was the king, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to checkmate the league itself. Stick around, because we're about to expose a conspiracy that rewrites everything you thought you knew about the Cleveland Browns. Let's roll the tape. Because to understand the brilliance of this entire setup, you have to go back to the chaos that started it all. Shedeur Sanders gets drafted by the Cleveland Browns. Forget the pick number. Forget the scouting breakdowns. The hype? It was supernova level. This wasn't your average rookie quarterback. This was Coach Prime's son. The same kid who dragged Jackson State, an HBCU school, into national relevance, turning them into must-watch television. The same gunslinger who took a 1-11 disaster of a Colorado team, and in his first game made him the talk of the entire sports world. He was box office gold. He was pure, unfiltered entertainment. He was the type of player built for the spotlight. But wait, because what went down in that locker room after this loss reveals everything about Shedeur Sanders' mindset and why this man is built for greatness, even if it's not happening in Cleveland right now. The Browns' defense looks heroic. The fans are thrilled. The headlines are glowing. It feels like this is the year the Browns finally stop being the Browns. And then, the unimaginable. Kevin Stefanski and the front office didn't just demote him to backup. That would have been frustrating, but at least somewhat logical. No, they went further. They did something so confusing, so downright insulting. It sent shockwaves through every corner of the sports world. They made him the third-string quarterback. Third string, behind veteran Joe Flacco, and another forgettable name most fans couldn't have called 2 days later. The reaction? Instant and nuclear. The internet turned into a firestorm of outrage and disbelief. Sports networks from ESPN's biggest personalities to small-town podcasts stood united in disgust. They called it incompetence. They called it professional malpractice. They called it the dumbest roster decision in the entire history of the franchise, famous for dumb personnel calls. Even folks who couldn't care less about football were talking about it. The Shedeur Sanders benching saga went far beyond sports. It became a cultural flashpoint, a full-blown case study in organizational collapse. The Cleveland Browns were once again the national joke. But here's where the narrative takes a dark and mesmerizing twist. While everyone else was yelling, assigning blame, and mocking the Browns, Jimmy Haslam was moving differently. He wasn't panicking in crisis meetings or running PR cleanup sessions. He was in quiet, high-level, closed-door meetings, the kind that happened behind City Hall walls. He was cutting deals with Cleveland officials for a brand-new, cutting-edge stadium, a glittering monument to football projected to cost over $1 billion. A project of that scale demands enormous political capital, public backing, private investors, and most critically, it needs attention. It needs indisputable, electrifying proof that the team matters. Now, ask yourself one simple, honest question. How do you persuade taxpayers and wealthy backers to help fund $1 billion stadium for a team that's been synonymous with disappointment and irrelevance for nearly 30 years? You don't do it with the same tired, dull brand of Cleveland Browns football that's been losing and breaking hearts for decades. You can't stroll into a mayor's office and say, "Hey, we might scrape together 7 wins this season. So how about you bankroll a football palace?" That's dead on arrival. You need something else. You need a story. You need tension. You need a narrative so magnetic people can't look away. You need star appeal. Enter Shedeur Sanders. Not just shatter the quarterback, shatter the phenomenon. And Jimmy Haslam, a cold-blooded billionaire who didn't climb to power by coincidence, grasped a brutal truth about modern sports media. In today's landscape, controversy prints money. Outrage fuels engagement. A compelling story, even a negative one, is worth infinitely more than silence. Shedeur playing well as a rookie? That's a sweet little local headline. But Shedeur Sanders, the league's most talked about rookie, mysteriously buried on the bench of a losing franchise? That's front-page national chaos. That's the kind of spectacle that hijacks every sports network, every morning debate show, every podcast, every trending hashtag for weeks. So what did Haslam do? Or rather, what did he allow? He sat back and let his head coach sideline the golden boy. He let the entire world think the Browns were a circus. He willingly traded his team's short-term image for something much grander. And what happened next? Exactly what the grand design demanded. The spotlight shifted to Cleveland. Every game became must-watch television. Viewers weren't tuning in because they loved the Browns. They tuned in because they couldn't resist the chaos. They wanted to witness the drama. They wanted to see if this would finally be the week Shedeur took the field. Overnight, the Browns went from being an NFL footnote to the most analyzed, discussed, and dissected team in the league. And while all this public madness unfolded, Jimmy Haslam was orchestrating everything behind the curtain. Sitting across from city officials, he didn't need to talk about wins or losses. He came armed with hard evidence. He had the TV ratings, the social media spikes, the website analytics, the national coverage metrics. He could prove, with stone-cold numbers, that the world was watching. Hard data proved that people were obsessed with the Cleveland Browns. Again, Jimmy Haslam could point and say, "Look at the buzz we've generated. Look at how many are talking about Cleveland football for the first time in years. This isn't just a sports team, it's a content empire. And that empire could fill $1 billion stadium with ease. Look at it from a cold, profit-driven angle. The Cleveland Browns brand alone doesn't carry the nationwide pull to warrant $1 billion public-private deal. It just doesn't. But the Shedeur Sanders brand, that's an entirely different monster. That's not confined to Cleveland fans. That's a national movement. That's Coach Prime's army. That's the Jackson State faithful. That's the Colorado crowd. That a tidal wave of followers ready to buy jerseys, tune into primetime matchups, and travel across states just to witness the next twist in this saga. And here comes the most viciously brilliant part of the entire playbook. By benching Shedeur, Haslam didn't just fuel controversy. He manufactured sympathy. He intentionally or accidentally on purpose built the ultimate underdog storyline. Shedeur Sanders was no longer the pampered son of a Hall of Famer. He became the overlooked prodigy, the muzzled lion, the young star being restrained by a clueless coaching staff. And what does America adore more than anything? A comeback arc, a redemption story. The audience was being conditioned to crave that moment when the silenced kid finally erupted and proved everyone wrong. Haslam wasn't just funding a stadium. He was directing an entire season-long reality show. And he had cast Shedeur Sanders as the leading hero. All he needed now was a villain. Enter poor Kevin Stefanski. Honestly, if this grand theory holds even a fraction of truth, and with every new twist it seems more like a tidal wave than a trickle, then Kevin Stefanski is the most tragic character in this modern-day football tragedy. He became the scapegoat, the patsy, the man forced to front-face decisions that were likely engineered miles above his authority. He's the one who had to stand at press conferences, week after week, looking dazed, attempting to justify what could not be justified. He's the one fielding endless questions about the quarterback chaos. He's the one appearing clueless on national broadcasts while his billionaire boss was behind the curtain shaking hands and securing his billion-dollar legacy. You can see the weight dragging him down. Look at his expression. The composure is gone, replaced with a constant air of unease. The foundation under his career is collapsing in real time. The cracks aren't subtle anymore. They're full-on fractures. The clearest proof? The Joe Flacco trade. Let's dissect this, because it's the ultimate smoking gun against the myth of front office harmony. The Browns traded Joe Flacco, the very veteran Stefanski personally chose as his Week 1 starter, to their own division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. On the surface, that move seems questionable. But then Mike Tomlin, the legendary and widely respected Steelers head coach, held a press conference. And he didn't just say he was thrilled to have Flacco, he made sure to emphasize his disbelief, essentially calling the Browns front office foolish without directly saying it. He commented, and I'm paraphrasing, that Browns GM Andrew Berry must be far smarter than him, because he couldn't possibly comprehend why a team would trade a quarterback they trusted enough to start just weeks earlier to a rival in desperate need of help at that same position. That's not a throwaway remark. Coaches, especially veterans like Tomlin, don't publicly mock another team's intelligence like that. It was a clear and deliberate shot across the bow. And as the great Pat McAfee broke it all down on his show, and he nailed the subtext. McAfee said, "This is Mike Tomlin's way of defending Kevin Stefanski without outright saying it." Think about that. Tomlin saw the writing on the wall. He recognized a fellow coach being systematically undermined by his own front office, and he used his national platform to send a coded message across the entire NFL. This wasn't the coach's failure. This was dysfunction at the highest level of the organization. Now, if you're Kevin Stefanski, imagine what that moment feels like. You handpicked Flacco. You built your conservative, risk-averse offense around him. You trusted him. And then your own general manager, your supposed ally, ships him off to your fiercest rival without, by most accounts, your blessing. That's not just a roster adjustment. That's a calculated power move. That's the front office making one thing painfully clear. Your voice no longer matters. They're saying, "We're running this operation. You'll coach who we give you, and you'll smile doing it." How would that make you feel? Betrayed, undermined, set up to fail. And when Stefanski was handed a chance to defend his GM, to clear the air, he didn't take it. When reporters questioned him about the trade and Tomlin's remarks, he could have projected unity, said, "Andrew Berry and I are aligned. This move was best of team." But he didn't. He froze. He deflected. He offered a hollow, empty answer. And in the predator-filled waters of the NFL, that silence was deafening. It confirmed what insiders in Cleveland had been hinting at for weeks. The leaks from ESPN Cleveland were real. There's a war raging inside the building. It's Kev versus Andrew and Jimmy. Stefanski wants one direction. The owner and GM want another. And in that kind of battle, history shows the coach rarely survives. This is all part of the master plan's finale. The script needed a villain, someone to blame for Shedeur sitting on the bench from day one. And Kevin Stefanski, the safe play caller who leaned on veterans, the man who dialed up 4-yard passes on 3rd and 10, the guy who made the Browns' offense painful to watch, fit that role perfectly. The narrative was locked in. The stadium deal? Done. Jimmy Haslam got his billion-dollar trophy. He smiled to the cameras, shook the mayor's hand, and declared victory over that major hurdle. Now comes the grand reveal. The payoff. It's time for the hero to step forward. The redemption arc begins. Cleveland is about to rally behind its young superstar and conveniently forget the months of dysfunction and chaos that led here. And as every good story demands, the villain must pay the price. Stefanski's clock is ticking, and each second is louder than the last. Now let's turn to the man at the epicenter of this hurricane, Shedeur Sanders. While the owner was plotting, the coach was unraveling, and the GM was making head-scratching trades, Shedeur was quietly waiting, watching, preparing. And if you followed this young man for even 5 minutes, you know one truth. He turns disrespect into fuel. He doesn't just play with a chip on his shoulder. It's a mountain. Being benched, being labeled third string, being doubted by his own franchise. None of that broke him. It ignited him. Look at his flawless track record. It's a masterclass in transformation. He arrived at Jackson State, a proud HBCU that had faded from the national spotlight, an afterthought in college football's hierarchy. And what did Shedeur do? Alongside his father, he made them the hottest program in the country. He brought ESPN's College Game Day to town. He won games. He shattered records and commanded national attention. He injected a surge of energy, credibility, and swagger into a program that had long deserved recognition, transforming them into appointment view television. He became the vessel of change. Then he followed his father to Colorado, a so-called Power 5 program that was such a name only. They were coming off a humiliating 1-11 season. They weren't just bad, they were the running joke of college football, totally irrelevant. And once again, from the very first snap, what did he do? He turned Colorado into the heartbeat of the sports world. He led them to a shocking upset win over a ranked TCU squad in his debut game. He made Boulder, Colorado, the premier Saturday night destination. He took a shattered situation and rebuilt it from the ground up. That's his gift. He steps into chaos and manufactures order. He steps into doubt and breathes belief. He's not just armed with cannon of an arm or lightning-fast reflexes. He's got that unteachable magnetic factor, a natural-born leader forged with the brightest lights and the fiercest pressure. He elevates everyone around him. And now, he's about to do it all over again in Cleveland. Because let's be brutally honest, the Browns need Shedeur far more than Shedeur needs the Browns. That billion-dollar stadium Jimmy Haslam just leveraged the franchise's future on. It doesn't sell out on the back of 7-win seasons and a play-it-safe offense. It doesn't bring in revenue with 3-yard checkdowns and dusty old football philosophy. It becomes iconic through star power, adrenaline, and primetime energy. It's filled by Shedeur Sanders. So yes, the team disrespected him publicly. Yes, they dragged him through months of unnecessary media drama and tension. But in a twisted way, it may have been the greatest thing that could have happened. Because when he finally takes that field as the undeniable starter, it's no longer just another rookie debut. It's a reckoning. It's personal. It's his moment to shut down every critic, starting inside his own locker room. It's his chance to stare Jimmy Haslam and Kevin Stefanski dead in the eye and show them the truth they ignored. It's his time to confirm what every real one watching already knew. This kid is different. And I'm standing with Shedeur 100%. My audience, you know exactly what I mean. You followed this kid since his Jackson State era. You watched him lift an entire conference to relevance. You saw him flip Colorado from forgotten to famous overnight. You've witnessed him, again and again, walk into a fractured environment and rebuild it from within. You know that the Cleveland Browns, whether through sheer luck or wicked strategy, just landed a franchise-altering jackpot. Was benching him a dumb football call? Absolutely. Was it insulting for a talent of his magnitude? Without question. But was it the central piece in Jimmy Haslam's long game to secure that stadium? The evidence screams yes. And if that's true, then Shedeur Sanders might just be the biggest winner of this entire saga. Because when you engineer this level of controversy, this much noise, attention, and global curiosity, and then finally unwrap the star, the explosion is monumental. The spotlight turns blinding. And for a showman like Shedeur, who thrives in chaos and craves the main stage, that's not pressure, that's comfort. The narrative has already been written. It's pure Hollywood waiting for its finale. The ignored rookie buried by a short-sighted coach finally rises and carries the cursed franchise to redemption. It's the kind of story that sells out arenas, moves jerseys, and packs that brand new stadium wall to wall. And Jimmy Haslam knows it. Kevin Stefanski, for whatever time he's got left, knows it. Andrew Berry knows it. The entire NFL knows exactly what's coming. So what happens now? Here's the prophecy. Shedeur Sanders finally gets the keys to the kingdom. And he dominates. Not because the Browns magically build a flawless offensive line overnight, but because he's simply that good. He's a creator. He extends plays with his legs. He reads defenses with precision. And he injects a surge of swagger and confidence into a huddle that's been missing in Cleveland for decades. Gradually, the Browns will start winning games they have no logical business winning. The fans, beaten down by years of heartbreak, will start to believe again. The national media once mocking them as a circus, will suddenly be covering them as contenders. And Kevin Stefanski? His career is now tied, unbreakably, to Shedur's performance. He either adjusts his conservative system to suit his explosive young quarterback and miraculously saves his job, or he becomes a designated fall guy. The name Jimmy Haslam points to an explaining early season chaos, making himself look like a visionary for forcing change. No more Joe Flacco to hide behind. No more safety nets. It's Shedur's team now. As for GM Andrew Berry, the man catching heat from Mike Tomlin to the Cleveland press, his seat burns just as hot. He's got maybe one more season to prove he can construct a roster worthy of his new franchise star. Because if Shedeur thrives despite the dysfunction, that spotlight only shifts higher. Another Browns meltdown. Another scapegoat. Another excuse to criticize wasted potential. But pause for a moment, because what happened in that locker room after the loss tells you everything you need to know about Shedeur Sanders' DNA and why this young man is destined for greatness. The bottom line, the only thing that truly matters, is this: Shedeur Sanders is about to carry the weight of an entire city and the gaze of the entire football universe on every snap he takes. And for an athlete molded by one of the fiercest competitors alive, pressure isn't his enemy. It's his oxygen. It's what fuels him. This is precisely where he belongs. The conspiracy, the drama, the benching, the stadium deal. It was all prelude, the long, winding setup for this precise moment. And whether Jimmy Haslam is a Machiavellian mastermind who orchestrated everything, or just a lucky owner who stumbled into brilliance, the outcome is the same. For the first time in forever, Cleveland Browns football is must-watch television. And it's all because of number 2. So now, I'm tossing it to you. The stage is set. The hero is about to step from the shadows. This chaotic saga is ready for its climax. When Shedeur Sanders finally becomes a full-time, undisputed starter for Cleveland Browns, how long before he engineers his first legendary game-winning drive? Does he explode right out the gate in Week 1, or does it take a few games to find rhythm in the NFL storm? An even bigger question: does Kevin Stefanski survive the season? Or does he become the first casualty of this new regime, fired after a 2-game skid? Drop your predictions in the comments right now. I'm reading every single one. And let's be honest, was I right about all this? Is this truly a calculated, cold-blooded conspiracy by Jimmy Haslam, leveraging Shedeur's superstardom to secure his stadium? Or have I just watched a beautiful mind one too many times and started connecting imaginary dots? Tell me, do you believe Haslam masterminded this entire saga, or am I giving way too much credit for what's really just classic Brown-style chaos? Either way, we're standing on the edge of something historic in Cleveland, because whether it's the epic redemption arc of Shedeur Sanders proving he truly belongs among the league's elite, the tragic collapse of Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, or the ultimate vindication of Jimmy Haslam's ruthless grand design, whatever form it takes, this is can't-miss television. This is the chaos, the emotion, the narrative depth that reminds us why we love this wild, unpredictable sport. And if you've stuck with me to the end of this video, you're one of the real ones. So do me one solid. Absolutely smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications, because we're going to break down every single chapter of the Shedeur Sanders saga. Every game, every press conference, every heated controversy, every defining moment that proves he's a franchise savior Cleveland has been begging for. And believe me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Hit that like if you're officially riding with Team Shedeur. Drop your season predictions down in the comments. I'll be reading them all. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep your eyes locked on Cleveland, because this story isn't ending. It's only just beginning.